IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team's skills up to date. IT Pro TV's team solution provides group pricing and access to their supervisor portal. You'll gain full control over your team's training schedule, see individual and group analytics, and more. IT Pro TV does IT live every day, so you know you're getting the most current IT training. Go to itpro.tv/Security Weekly and use the code SW30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. To learn more about IT Pro TV's team solution, sign up for a free demo of their supervisor portal. Has your network been breached? Cybereason can help you answer this question. Cybereason products hunt for threats within your network and eliminate them in real time. To Cybereason, real time means within seconds. Founded by former military hackers who don't play by the rules, they've built this experience into their platform. Harness ingenuity and imagination, not just code, to defeat attackers. Cybereason, disrupt the adversary and let the hunt begin. Endgame automates the hunt for both known and never-before-seen adversaries in enterprise networks. Built on unique knowledge on the adversary's tools, techniques, and tactics, Endgame's centrally managed agent prevents, detects, and responds to advanced adversaries in the earliest stages of the kill chain without prior knowledge. Endgame, automate the hunt. The average time between being hacked and realizing you've been hacked is 1 year. Can you afford to let an intruder roam your network for that long? Can your company weather the fallout when this comes to light? Black Hills Information Security can find the bad guys in your network and train you to do it yourself. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com to find out how a hunt teaming engagement can help you find a persistent threat in your network. Welcome back, everyone, to Security Weekly.
Holy shit, did we just have a fucking nerd moment? God.
We've come to this realization of two things. One, we're nerds. And two, that we're old.
2019. 2019 was the set.
Was the set for Blade Runner.
Yep.
We're getting in preparation for the new Blade Runner movie. Go back and watch Blade Runner. It's amazing. Awesome.
Go back and watch.
What really freaks me out is 2019 is just 2 short years away.
Yeah, like they're in 2019, dude. They're in like flying cars, like going to all these things, like their voice recognition software.
On CRTs?
Albeit it displays on CRTs is what I noticed. I watched the movie a couple of weeks ago, and when Deckard is doing the whole, like, I'm analyzing this image thing, and he's like, zoom in on Sector 4, and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's happening on like this old school, like, CRT monitor. I'm like, okay, you kind of got that wrong. Like, that would be a flat screen nowadays. Yeah. That's fine. But
some of the other technology is like...
Some of the other tech is, like, way... Like, dude, flying cars. Like, why don't we have... And Jack said this... Go ahead, Jeff. You're older than all of us.
Hold up your mobile device.
Yeah. It's somewhere.
And then watch Star Trek, the original series.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And it will also argue, go watch Apollo 13 and hold up your mobile device. And this has more computing power than all the computing power they put a man on the moon.
But to go back to Jeff's point... because my mom is still to this day a huge Star Trek fan and one that got me into science fiction and Star Trek, and started watching it when it was first coming on the air in those days for the original series,
that was my dad, and I watched it with him.
And
Jeff, the original series in black and white on a 19-inch screen, and probably the first couple years of syndication.
Yeah, but you're not as old as my mom.
When I first saw it on a color TV, it blew my mind. I didn't know they had different.
Now hold on, Jeff. But you're not. But Jeff, you're not as old as my mom. You're not in your 60s, are you?
No, I'm in my 50s.
Okay, so you watched some reruns of it.
No, I watched the original series.
I watched original when I was.
So maybe there was an age difference.
Yep.
In any case,
Amazon Hornet, which had you're a kung fu guy. The Green Hornet TV series had
Green Hornet.
Bruce Lee played Kato.
Yep. You didn't actually know he wore a green uniform until you saw him on color TV.
No,
he was the limo driver.
Green uniform.
He was the chauffeur.
It was actually black with a black mask.
Yeah. But because it showed up better on black and white TV.
Time Tunnel was another great original show.
So Amazon has
Fugitive.
I love the original Star Trek. Just to talk about nerd stuff, and the Amazon has like the top 10 most popular or most famous Star Trek original series episodes. You can buy like the playlist of just those episodes.
The best.
But it's all the ones that like I remember watching with my mom and like being like, these are like the best, like the ones with the
Tribbles, Sex with Green Alien.
Tribbles is number one.
Yeah.
The Trouble with Tribbles. Yeah. You do realize that Star Trek was released in 1966, so that makes it 51 years old now. So you'd have to be pretty damn old if you're going to be watching the original series.
Oh, so that means I was watching reruns.
You were watching reruns. Yeah,
I was watching
that
old.
I was watching
we're Brady bunching. I love that.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. It was really groundbreaking for a lot of reasons, and still somewhat relevant today. You know.
Yep. And now
just a whole like incorporation of different races and Uhura. Of course, there's a lot of controversy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it was groundbreaking for so many reasons, not just technology, but the whole sociology aspect of it. I love it to this day for that reason.
Continued on to quote some of the more modern stuff.
Oh yeah, the newer movies are. They're okay. They're okay. I'll watch them. I'll watch them because I'm a fan of the series. But,
and Jeff, to throw down some nerd cred there. The first time I ever saw Star Trek was on a television that my dad built from Heathkit. It was a color TV.
So that's where you get that from.
Yep, but even better, and it's in my in some of my bios in various places that the first color TV that I ever watched some of this stuff on was a color TV built from a Heathkit kit by my dad. The Heathkit kit was actually provided third party by another company, and I can't remember the company's name. They actually produced television sets. And basically, instead of producing a television, they just put all the parts in the box and made you assemble it. The problem is this company made television sets that were famous for catching on fire and were actually sued because the television sets caught on fire and burnt down and killed a number of families.
That's terrible.
And the television set that my dad built from Heathkit actually caught on fire on 2 different occasions and ended up in our basement where he repaired it with your, quote, original replacement parts type of deal the first time, and then it caught on fire a second time, and he rebuilt it, and I helped him rebuild it the second time.
But you know what's funny? I want to just put this. Well,
if there isn't nerd cred there, I don't know what is.
Now hold on. I know this is off topic. I want to put this in perspective for our listeners. Larry, last week, and Larry, how old are you? You're just over 40 years
42.
old, right? Came into studio last week and handed me a keyboard and was like, "Paul, I built this keyboard from a parts kit." Like that's how full circle we come.
Yes.
From like speaking of who we are on the podcast today, that was cool.
And to give us that keyboard that you saw, I am building a replica, an identical match to that,
but a replicant,
but better.
It has the keys, like the numbers and letters are on them.
So the keyboard that I built has no lettering on the keycaps,
which is pretty badass.
I am building a 60% keyboard. Galen and I are building a 60% keyboard with custom keycap set, all labeled with matrix font, with glowing, and we are giving it away.
Oh yeah, you are
at
doing
our
a contest
booth at DerbyCon.
Nice, that's awesome.
My small contribution to this geek out. What year do you remember is the earliest time you saw any kind of streaming video or TV network broadcast on your computer? What's the earliest you remember seeing some sort of broadcast on?
I want to say I got cable internet from Cox Cable here in Rhode Island in Jeff. I want to say 2000 or 2001, around that time frame.
And I want to clarify, and I mean by streaming media, meaning something I downloaded and I streamed to another device in my own home, or something I streamed via the internet.
I would say whatever, network broadcast. What was streaming live? You picked it up on your computer. And we're watching it online. I will trump all. I'm guessing I will trump all of you. I want to say it was 1989.
Yeah, you're way beyond us. Speaking of media,
I wouldn't exactly say maybe something I saw that was news, but it might have been the coffee pot at MIT.
So, but here,
this was an app that we were running on a Unix workstation that was getting a network feed from one of the local networks. Yeah. So we were watching live TV.
I do want to say that speaking of media that we're talking about in TV shows and movies and stuff, HBO social media accounts have been hacked. Now, I want to preface this with there have been a lot of networks that have been attacked. Game of Thrones, Orange
which
is the new
still
HBO, but also Orange is the New Black.
HBO
is that Showtime or HBO?
No, that's Netflix.
It's Netflix.
Oh,
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
It's Netflix. A lot of shows have had compromises that are basically like ransomware. Like we've either stolen your actual media and or we've stolen your scripts, and we're going to release those to the public unless you pay us some kind of ransom. And that seems to be the trend. We talked about that in our interview with Graham Cluley.
Yeah.
I find that kind of an interesting trend that we're seeing today. HBO seems to be the primary victim of this attack.
Right. Well,
and it has been extended now to their social media accounts. So my first question is kind of like, why do... I'll call them hackers, but it's not the right term. Like, why do the evil bad guys that are doing this, or gals, on the internet...
I think I have an answer.
Like, why are they doing this to HBO? What is it about HBO that's grinding everything?
Right now, I think the reason for HBO, and you talk about all the things that they say they're going to release, is right now, within the last 3 to 4 weeks, I've lost count because, oh my God, insanity of life. Game of Thrones has started its new season. And this is an opportunity for them to cash in.
Okay.
Like, hey, you've got this new season, which my understanding, and I could be wrong, and I can hear people yelling at me in the car right now, is the last season of Game of Thrones. Like, hey, this is the opportunity to cash in. We're going to release all your shit that you've got out there, and you guys can't
But I
profit
have a
from
really stupid follow-up question for that, Larry.
No stupid
and I don't watch Game of Thrones, but if I understand correctly, it's based on some sort of novel or series of novels.
It is.
Much like Walking Dead.
So is not the last season kind of already available if you've read the book?
But so is The Walking Dead.
Yep.
And they've taken some liberties. They've also taken liberties with Game of Thrones. Same with all of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Those were all books.
They were all books. And you know what? I have not read
a single book.
I haven't read a book in a long time. I've listened to a lot of them on Audible and such. But I have not read the Game of Thrones. I have not read The Walking Dead. I have the comic books for The Walking Dead. Sometimes it's great to do both. And a lot of people that I know have never read the books for the Game of Thrones because they want to see the visual aspect and they want something.
They've been following the show.
And the big thing is, it's also a great moneymaker.
He's a millennial. If the book's good enough, they'll make a movie out of it.
Yeah. And you know what? I will do both. I will fully admit that...
You go both ways, Larry.
I do. I do go both ways. And I will fully admit that I read all of the Twilight books. Every single one of them. And you know what?
Disturbing in so many ways, Larry.
I have
Larry and I's love for each other is still a better love story than Twilight.
It is. I agreed. It is. It is. And you know what? I've seen every one of the movies.
I've seen Larry and Paul Sparkley.
And you know what? I have seen every one of the movies. And for entertainment value and entertainment value alone, they were fantastic.
How does this relate to security again? I'm just wondering.
Why were they targeting HBO?
So
why? Because
why do we care that episodes of any show series is hacked and out there?
Why? Because HBO has a vested monetary interest in it, and the hackers know that.
So it's a monetary.
It's a monetary thing. Did they say hack it's not the ransomware, but it's ransomware. We're not going to lock down your system.
So let's talk about
attribution.
No,
oh God. No,
hold on. Let's talk about something that has nothing to do with making money, and for the sheer people it sickens me that there are people out there that do this just for the sheer thrill of the result of watching the expression on someone's face. And that's what this article references. So the article title is Women Targeted with 120 Images on Public Transport via Airdrop. And let's take you back to 2003. And we covered this early days on Security Weekly.
We did.
Where you could pair to someone's Bluetooth phone.
Yep.
You could upload images and they would view those images. That attack largely kind of dropped off as manufacturers figured out how to secure Bluetooth on their...
We also, I don't remember when, but we did go into the whole AirPlay thing about leaving your AirPlay device enabled.
But this is AirDrop.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, AirDrop. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a function... No, what confuses me about this article is that it says that it's NFC.
It's not. It's
from my understanding, like NFC is like I don't have my device, but like I get my phone.
It's a euphemism.
No, it's not a euphemism.
No.
I get my NFC enabled smartphone. I take my NFC device, and whether I'm paying for something or using some kind of two-factor authentication, I have to like physically put those
within reason. Yeah.
In my experience, I had to physically like touch those devices to each other in order to get some NFC transfer to happen.
Or very close to.
Or very close to. In my experience, when I pay for something...
AirDrop is based on an 802.11 protocol, which has extended range. It is not NFC.
Oh, okay. This article described it as NFC.
It is not NFC. Okay. AirDrop is significant distance range. And for example, I can go to DEF CON and I can turn on AirDrop, and I can search for AirDrop devices in my local proximity over wireless.
And it's an 802.11. That makes way more sense. Thank you, Larry. Because the article described it as NFC, and I'm like, well, when I pay for something or I use the two-factor authentication, like from Ubico, I have to physically like press those devices together.
No, it is not
for the NFC transfer to happen. In this case, I get what you're saying. It's 802.11. So from a distance, I can basically what they were doing. And this is terrible, is they were taking 120 images of penises and they were putting that on someone else's device for the sheer thrill of watching that person's reaction. Now, largely...
or Smalley, as the case.
Or Smalley, whatever the case may be, they were targeting women to be able to, like, get a stream of 120 dick pics, essentially, which I just think is... Like,
juvenile?
It's like, why would you do like? Now, the other thing about that whole scenario is you can be prosecuted under several federal or state
sexual
laws as basically it's the same thing as if you would have basically.
Maybe they wanted to do security images, but somebody hacked them
Jeff. Essentially,
penis.
No,
nice try.
Yeah, I want to make light of this subject, but I read the article and I'm like, there's no making light of this because the law states in the UK and conceivably the US, and I'll defer to an expert, but like it's the same thing as you showing your junk to some random woman on the train, Jeff. Like that's the extent of it. Like it's prosecuted the exact same way, and it's not something you should do. It's not a joke.
It's a crime.
On the joking,
it's a crime. Thank you, Jeff.
On the joking side, we had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day that's back in the dating scene, and they thought they had found someone that was like, they were started talking to, and all of a sudden the dick pic comes in. And we were sitting at breakfast with this person, and the dick pic comes in, and she's like totally embarrassed. And we had a conversation about like, when did it become a good idea, and when did it become successful to send dick pics to folks and actually work? Because my generation, our generation, get off my lawn, dude. Like that's not a thing.
No, but you hit the nail on the head, right? Like I've had conversations with my female friends years ago before this story broke, and they're like, I'm talking to someone that might be interested, like legitimately having a relationship with me, and like maybe going on a date, and then they're like, all of a sudden, it's like, I get a picture of their penis, and it's like. I'm like, dude, like, what do you do? Like you and I, like, a lot of us on the show, like, we've been married for some time. I'm like, so hold on. Like, what do you do when that happens? Like, how is that socially acceptable.
Like my thing is, I don't think it would ever be appropriate for me to send a pic of my penis to anyone.
I don't do that to my wife.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm married to the woman, for crying out loud.
Like,
and she's
no.
seen it. And
No.
like, I don't send her pictures of it.
No, she does not want to see a picture of that on her phone.
But
like,
now my thing is, if you're going to do that and be classy, send a dick pic.
What is that? What?
Go Google DIK. It is a very small antelope. Dick. Go send a dick pic.
Oh, what, you have to like zoom in on it?
No, it's a small. No, you don't have to zoom in on it. It's a small antelope. It's called a DIK. Like, hey, I'm going to send you a picture, and you send a picture of a dick. Like, to me, if I were to send, if I were to send a woman a dick pic, I would send him a dick pic because, like, hey,
a small cute animal.
Because I didn't send someone or a
picture
pic.
of my.
I sent him a dick pic that was just funny because, like, that's how I roll.
But what is interesting?
We're all so old. We're wondering why this is a thing. I wonder why this is a thing.
But why do people do it? Does it work? Because maybe I need to. No. I never need to start trying this.
You're married, so in theory, you don't need to worry about it.
Right. It should never work. Now, the other thing about this article is that it states that...
Mark's sending dick pics right now. He's in the bathroom.
Probably to me.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine.
Mark needs to wear those pants pics.
But... So one of the victims of this attack, which I feel bad for because it's just awful.
It's awful.
But one of the victims says, well, you know, a lot of people, and I can see this on social media, and I've witnessed it myself, where people say, well, if you don't want to be a victim of this attack, disable airdrop. And it's like, well, I need that to be able to do other things on my phone. So while that prevents against this attack, I can't use my phone the way I want to use my smartphone in my everyday.
But it's like Facebook privacy settings. There are complexities to it, and not everybody understands it. And I would argue that I have AirDrop enabled, and I have AirDrop accept from everyone, just because I want to see what people send to me.
Yeah.
And you can change that. You can have it sent from only accept stuff from people in your
contact
list.
But like when you go ride the subway every day, you shouldn't have to think about, I'm leaving my house. I got to disable AirDrop because someone's going to send me 120 pictures.
Like
male genitalia.
But
like
if somebody, but for me, if like somebody sends me a pic of a meme or something, like great. Or if someone sends me a dick pic, like, I wouldn't be offended, but there are people that would be.
So contact your local authorities, and if that doesn't work, send the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi address of that person's phone. You know what? Send it to us, and we'll deal with it for you. Thank you very much. Yes. We'll send it to our entire network, and we'll just deal with that for you.
Yeah, because
that shouldn't happen. To be honest with you,
if you're going to send unsolicited AirDrop pictures, you shouldn't be trying to do that because that's gross.
It is.
Make someone's day happier and send them dick pics.
Move on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Jeff, thank you. I was going to segue into another story from that in terms of attribution.
So I have one. If you talk about attribution,
yeah.
Attribution is hard. My story number 5. So I highly suggest that you go click on the link because I think it's fucking hilarious. Paul, you should go click on the link because it's really important.
Attribution is hard. Hold on, I see it. I'm clicking on it.
So it is a story from IT Security Central with the top 20 IT security influencers from Twitter, and if you get down to what is it, Jack Daniel and me. Wait, no, go back down.
Oh, that's me. Hold on, I'm on me.
Wait, no, it's not you.
No, wait, me is you. You is me. We're each other. We're one.
Well, so it's like the top 20 security influencers from Twitter, and that's the one that I thought was hilarious. It says Paul Asadorian, and it has my Twitter handle and my Twitter profile and my Twitter bio.
And I would say that probably 85% of the people on this list are people that we know.
Yep, I would agree.
And love and encourage you to follow.
Yeah, I would agree that this is a great list.
It is,
including Paul Asadorian,
including Larry Pesce. Who are the?
I'm amused.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely great. I just stumbled across it because they ended up in the notification. Hey, we just posted the top 20 security influencers on Twitter, and I was named in the list. I'm like, what? Holy shit!
So
and then it's Paul.
So here's the thing, Larry.
No, it's really me.
I want to put out there for our listeners in the general community, probably once or twice a month, we get an email or some kind of correspondence from a company that it's like, hey, you've been named the top X security X
and
list.
And it's always this guy.
No, and it's always one of us will be on that, that list.
I haven't seen me on one of those lists.
No,
whatever.
You are.
Whatever.
You're like the top security X, influencer.
I'm not butthurt.
Blogger. It's nothing to be butthurt about. It's like because they're just analyzing based on statistics. Like
absolutely.
who is in security, and they're like
big data.
The only thing they're trying to do, Larry, is this. They're trying to say, hey, you, whoever you are, person in Security Weekly, person in security community, you're on this list. Could you retweet or promote that you've been on this list? And they're only trying to build their own brand so they can sell ads based on zero knowledge, but
of what
like 100% of like shady scam hacking.
Or they're saying, hey, you're a member of this list and you're like number 2, but you got to pay us $500 to be published.
It's just all, scam.
Hey, did you know you're on the IT security top 100 list? Would you like a framed certificate for $500?
Yeah.
So you can show your mom?
Bad.
Yeah, no.
It's all bad, pretty much.
I'm in a who's book in technology.
Oh, that's a college
years
thing.
Ago.
That's a college thing. It used to mean something at some point.
Yep, it did. I remember those, and I remember you had to pay like $40 for it or something like that.
Yep,
I was in one, but I didn't have to pay.
I didn't pay the money to get my own copy of the book, so somebody's got it on their shelf somewhere.
I was in one when it meant they contacted your professors that had to nominate you.
Oh.
And that's what I feel like it meant something, right? Like if they...
That might have been where it started, but this one was when I was working in the DoD.
Yep, I got.
But I feel like
shortly thereafter.
But it's a good point, Jeff and Larry. You know, if they contact people who know you and ask you to rank people, that's when it means something. If you have to pay to be on the list, it doesn't mean anything. Anyway.
I got one of those many years, and we were
welcome
talking
to
about
our world.
We
get like, if I could only describe the emails that we all get every day from people, they're like, "Hey, I read your website,"
and I think this thing about baby moms would be great.
No, the pregnancy one. We got one of those like a pregnancy
today.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And unfortunately, we all get the same emails.
We do, because our email, we have a list that everyone who hosts a show on Security Weekly, we're all on the same list. So we get ones to that one. I get ones individual. It's just bad. Pretty much all. Now, I shouldn't say all 100%. There's a small 5% that I do follow up with, and it is a legitimate thing. The 95% of the ones internally, we just
make fun of.
The funny, like sometimes I get in a mode where we get emails and they're like, "Oh, I read your blog, and I really think that I have content that could really enhance your blog." And I'm like, "Oh." So sometimes I'll respond back to them. Every once in a while, like I get bored and I'm like, "Oh, so you're on a blog?" I'm like, "What was your favorite post, and why was it your favorite post on a blog?" And they're like, like deer in headlights. You can tell it's like deer in headlights response. Like, I don't know. I'm like, so you didn't really read our blog. You're just saying that you did. Like, no one has the 95% never has a good response to that question, and they will never email us again.
Nope.
I can spend all day, every day, just responding to those emails.
You should. You said I'm on a responder. Which was your favorite?
We do. We need an autoresponder.
If content includes, I read your blog, read and blog, respond with, which one was your favorite?
Like you so want to like
automatic survey.
Yeah.
You want to be hopeful, Joff. Like, oh, I read your blog, and that one on responder where you talked about like exploiting Mimikatz and doing that stuff. That was my favorite one. Like I'd be like, well, I'm kind of impressed. Like let's talk. Yeah. But that's like the 3 to 5% maybe.
Yep. Yeah, if that.
If that.
Now, kicking it old school, I used to, and I still do because we still have a landline, like to answer the telemarketing calls and try to get the telemarketers to hang up on me.
Yeah. So Jeff, we still
very similar.
We still have a landline, and I found a great one today that I answered, and it was like, my mom's been having some cancer treatment and that type of stuff, and it was a local number. It was in the 401 area.
Increasingly more in your local area code.
And it said something about cancer. So I answered it, and I thought maybe it was someone trying to book an appointment for her because I'm responsible for that. And I pick it up, and I say, hello, and there's a pause. I'm like, fuck.
Oh, we're fucked.
Auto dialer is flipping it over to the live operator.
And it says, Kristen? Like, no, this is Larry. Oh, that's okay. I can speak to either of you. I'm like, okay. And then it goes on like, oh, we're with and we're with the Cancer Institute, and we're soliciting donations. And I'm like, and I'm so glad to not talk to another answering machine. And I'm like, fuck you. And my answer was, this is an automated thing that understands what I say. And I immediately just, without whatever is going on, I say, do not call list. And immediately the conversation stops and says, we'll add you to our do not call list and we'll never call you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like,
my story number 2, unpatchable flaw in modern cars allows hackers to disable safety features. And I was like reading this. I'm like, this could be like really breaking research. However,
I think we put I think I may have put this in a couple of weeks ago, but it's okay. But we didn't get to it. But
Larry, what's the thing that basically makes this not something we should jump up and down in our chairs about?
I didn't read this specifically.
Requires physical access to the vehicle.
Yeah, there you go. Now, physical access to the vehicle is becoming less and less of a problem, given that we're talking about.
But like if you have physical, it's like the computer. If you have physical access to the vehicle or the computer, sure you can own it in some particular way.
Absolutely.
I agree.
But
to play devil's advocate to my own argument, yes, the CAN bus on vehicles should be secured the same way like layer 2 security and protocol should be considered security computers. However, it still requires physical access.
But now the CAN bus is largely secured by another physical layer, the locks, the doors, and so forth. But we're learning more and more that the bypassing of the locks and being able to do replay attacks against the wireless locks that come in modern vehicles are becoming are being more and more defeated. And getting physical access potentially to these vehicles, the restriction is less and less. We've talked a number of times about vehicles being stolen, or I've seen stories about vehicles being stolen, and some famous names have had their vehicles stolen out of various restaurants and stuff when they've done valet and you name it. And even to the point in the upcoming 617 course with the updates, we talk about replay based attacks in that late model Jeep stuff. You can actually take the unlock code or the lock and the unlock codes from the Jeeps and actually replay it unmodified, and it will unlock. And I own one of those.
Hold on. Via a key fob or via...
key fob.
So on my GM vehicle, which I described to our listeners, we're going to get someone on the show that actually works in the security team for GM. We're trying to get him on the show. Yesterday... one of my sons came up to me and said, I need to go in the car and get something, and it's locked. He's like, I need the keys. I'm like, hold on, I can go on my app and I can unlock the car from my phone. That's different from having the key fob.
Yes.
Very, very different.
Now, it is.
I have a GM vehicle.
Yep.
One of my vehicles is from GM, and they spend a lot of time on security for that application, which I'm very grateful for. However, being in this industry for as long as I have been, 17 plus years, I'm very concerned about that level of security.
Now, the problem
that makes me old.
The problem is
some are curmudgeon-y at this point as well.
The modules for those vehicles
You're halfway there.
Halfway. Yeah, I'm halfway. I'm half curmudgeon at this point.
So the vehicle as designed that's sitting in your driveway, what year is that? What model year?
It's a 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Now, the design for that vehicle didn't happen in 2016. It didn't happen in 2015. It didn't happen in 2014. It didn't happen in 2013. It may have happened in 2012 or 2011, maybe even 2010.
You know, did
and
you
the,
see
and the modules and the security perspective that were applied to that was at the time when those were designed.
No, it's a good point. Did you see the Daily Dave post? We haven't talked about Daily Dave in a while.
No, we haven't.
Dave Attell's
and I
awesome,
haven't because I stopped subscribing to Daily Dave a long time ago.
Oh, that's too bad.
But Daily Dave is still awesome.
Dave is awesome.
And it was mostly because I got inundated.
They talked about the CTF kind of thing at DEF CON that they did. I was watching that right before the show. There was basically... And I'm trying to understand exactly how it happened. I'm not sure if both offense and defense were hands off for this exercise, but they did it at DEF CON.
Was this the vehicle CTF?
No, it was artificial intelligence kind of CTF. So basically, vendors had to develop AI to protect their systems. Red teams had to develop AI to attack those systems.
This is very much the cyber challenge from the year prior.
It was 2016, I think.
Yes.
And the video was coming out talking about 2016, right?
Yes.
And they basically released the artificial intelligence at one time, and I think you're right, Larry. It was last year.
Last year.
But they just released the video to talk about, to summarize it all because it's so complex to talk about. Hey, they show people cutting the cord. This is the last communications any defender will have with the network, and it's cut. And then we're going to introduce the attacker's artificial intelligence and what all happen. It's very similar to what you're talking about vehicle security. You develop your security model basically in a black box, not knowing what is going to happen.
The future is going to bring.
Yeah.
Yep. And the last year's CTF was really interesting in that, from my understanding, I could be wrong, most of it played out a little bit before the con, in that it was very much an AI-based, and the AI had to find zero-day in shit. And they had to design AI to find zero-day in stuff.
One of the most fascinating...
it was unbelievable. Now
read the thread on Daily Dave, but go dig into them and watch the videos in the background. Really, really cool shit.
Yep. And absolutely, it was such cool shit that one of the guys that I met during my first DEF CON, is
that the one where you were naked?
Yes,
in the morning
on the hood of a car.
Hood of a car. Yep.
That one, and it was that was just a rumor. One of the gentlemen that I met during my first DEF CON.
It's still to this day just a rumor.
Yep. During my first DEF CON, one of the gentlemen that I met...
Joff is losing it. Joff's what is going on?
Actually broke his moratorium on being filmed to commentate that particular event. Visigoth. In Visigoth. Yeah, Vizzy.
I saw Vizzy for the first time. Well, someone who claims to be Vizzy. Anyway.
Okay. We'll talk about that later.
I will shroud him in secrecy.
Yeah. Someone who claims to be Vizzy.
Someone who claims to be Vizzy, who's awesome, who we love.
In Visigoth. Vizzy, for short.
Who's been a long-time listener of this show.
And been a long-time fanboy of said show.
Of the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Vizzy's awesome, and I hope to get a chance to catch up with him. And now that he's maybe lifted some of his moratorium, maybe he'll come on the show.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
We exchanged hugs at DEF CON this year. I'm dude, I specifically remember you as one of those figures shrouded in secrecy.
Vizzy made one of my first and second year of DEF CON the memorable thing why I have to go back every year. He and a few other of our listeners are ones that why DEF CON is a thing for me. So, moving along.
Hey,
what else we got?
Can we change gears and ask a philosophical, political question?
Like we haven't already, Jeff.
Let's do it, Jeff. I'm curious to see now.
And Joff has been
philosophical.
Joff has been largely silent, so we need to get him in.
Philosophical and political, Jeff. I am so curious as to where you're going to go with this.
So, there's been some things happening the last week or so in the United States. And,
really?
All sorts of things happening in the media and politics and all that
Twitter
kind of stuff.
And
How does everybody feel about hacker groups like Anonymous, Hacktivism, going after and taking over sites, websites, and social media sites that they feel are offensive?
This has been going on for a long time. This is very much.
No, you're right.
Very much with the Jester. Tango Down has been taking over sites that he thought was politically incorrect and or ISIS related, and all this stuff has been going on for a long time.
But I just want to qualify that, Larry. Like, politically incorrect and like outright hateful and disgraceful are two totally different things, and I think that
agreed.
There's groups involved in all different spectrums. For like you said, Larry, from the beginning of time,
this is not new.
No, it's not new. I think there have been, Jeff, to your point, groups within the computer hacking, call them good or better, indifferent, right? But there are groups that within computer hacking spectrums, and I think this has been largely kind of how do you call it, like evangelized through the TV show Mr. Robot, right?
Yep.
Where there's the hacker mentality. Either it's a single person or a group that is like, hey, there's a group out there that like hates people or doing bad things, and we're going to target them.
Yep.
And we're going to take them down. That's been going on, as Larry said, for a long time. And I don't want to condone anyone. I don't want to condone anyone's behavior because, look, like if you're a hate group, like you're likely a deplorable human beings that have a particular stance on things. However, if you're violating state or federal law
or license agreements,
and doing that similar kind of thing, you're still breaking the law.
Yep.
And that's I don't want to give that perception to those of us coming into the industry as well. Like we're putting on an event here in Rhode Island in October that we're speaking to the 50 or some odd schools in Rhode Island that are partaking in Cyber Patriot and trying to develop the next generation.
Make sure I know about that because I'd like to, if schedule allows.
Like, if not the next or next generation of cybersecurity professionals in our field, and you're absolutely invited to partake in that, Larry. And I don't want to send the message to them that like any kind of hacking is good hacking. There's certainly lines there. And
Joff, I want you to comment, and I have a comment afterwards.
Yeah, okay. So I think that.
Go ahead,
Paul. It's Joff's turn.
So just in closing, like your political beliefs and your like what you're going to hack and enact whatever kind of like bad things on, and take two things into consideration, like, or really just one thing, like. The law is one thing, certainly, and not all groups that exist on the planet are necessarily good. However, if you feel strongly about an issue, you can't necessarily you can't violate federal and state law to do that. There are more proper ways. Yeah, or internet. You can't. There's proper ways to go about that. So, Joff.
I think you're all circling around. If you don't mind, Jeff, I'll just make a comment. I think you're all circling around something that I've been thinking about for some time. And to me, it all comes back to the Constitution of the United States. And there's this thing called the Bill of Rights, otherwise known as the Amendments to the Constitution.
Yes, sir.
Which I like to think about it more as the Bill of Privileges, because the way I say it to my children and the way that I say it to my friends is that with every great privilege comes
great responsibility. Yes. And with every great responsibility comes great privilege.
Exactly. And the word that Paul was circling around, I think, is responsibility. So hate groups are not exercising responsibility. They may be exercising free speech, but they're certainly not doing it in a responsible way, in my opinion. And anybody that engages in hacktivism is a little bit the same way. They're exercising the freedom to do that, but they don't, there's a responsibility and there are ramifications to what they're doing.
Well, and Geoff, to your point, what I really want to point out for this show is that within the context of federal, state, and international law, if you're bringing facts to public light, that's okay.
That's not called defamation.
But as long as you're following the law, like, that's okay, right? And that's one kind of aspect to everything that's going on. Certainly, there's everyone's opinions, which are...
And opinions like assholes. Everybody's got one, and everyone stinks.
Absolutely. And there are certainly groups within... Now, and I don't want to... And I think where everyone had a lot of criticism is to the president, to various... law enforcement agencies, the whole thing is people bring their opinions into that. There are certainly groups that we've talked about in the show for the past 12 years, right? Like, they are absolutely under scrutiny from law enforcement from the U.S. for, like, deplorable things. Or potentially, because they have been proven in a court of law, according to this country, right?
You think about anti-Semite behavior in Germany. Like, it's not just us.
But we've talked about on this show, a lot of people have made this, argument, not specifically to me, but brought up in conversation. I'm like, like we've covered on the show, like, there are law enforcement agencies that have investigated domestic terror for some time, and we respect and support them in that effort. And, like, I don't know, there's a lot of crossing lines here today in the political spectrum.
And let's put it this way. I want to make sure that I'm understood that I respect your right to say whatever the hell you want. And when it offends me, don't be offended when I tune out. But I would never punch you in the face for saying what you believe. Paul, you could tell me, dude, I'm a Republican. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'm a Democrat. And you know what? We can be friends.
Yeah, but
because you can believe in different things than I do, and
that's fine. But you know what I think the line is Larry, if you and I were on an investigation and we were helping to support someone. A law enforcement agency was like, we're trying to find that this group was violating the law and using digital means to do so.
Definitely.
You know, I'd be like, yeah, you know what?
Yeah, you know what?
We're all about... Like, our political... Whatever. Even if we agreed or completely disagreed on political views, you and I both be like, yeah, no, we're going to go get the bad guys.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. Like, that's where I think when people are losing sight of like what people's views and opinions are
I know and I think I know where Geoff is going with this article or with this comment. And if you don't mind, I'd like the production crew to put the camera specifically on me because I want to be... profound for a moment. So they're apparently not listening to the show because
that's okay.
That's okay.
Civic responsibility was the word I was about to say.
So civic responsibility for this, I think where I get where Geoff is going because I want to be presidential for a moment and do this and do this, regardless of your political affiliation. That I want to do this and I want to hold on the podium and I want to do this and act presidential and say. Fake news that many of these sites were not taken down because of hackers, that in fact these political groups put up their own notifications that they were taken down by hackers, and in fact they're actually taken down because they violated the terms or agreements of the services that they were using.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they put up these big notices that saying, hey, oh, fuck, we got taken down by these government agencies because they said we couldn't say the things that we wanted to say. And no, they put these things up because, in fact, like, GoDaddy's like, you can't serve hate speech from our shit. And all of a sudden, like, they realize, like, oh, shit, they got a hate speech on our shit. I'm like, no, you're out of here. And Cloudflare said the same thing. Yeah, no, you can't protect the fact that you can say hate speech from our shit because we don't allow you to say hate speech. But go elsewhere.
It goes back to, like, if Larry and I were tasked with over however long we've known each other, right, 13 years or whatever, like, if we were tasked with, like, finding bad and investigating bad, our political views wouldn't go into that. We'd be like,
this is bad.
We'd be exactly where you're stating now, Larry. We'd be like, hold on. The terms of service state this.
Yep.
That group is, or whoever is violating this, and that's bad.
Do you know how many times in an incident response that I've thrown away anything I believe in?
Yeah.
And I've said, no, this violates law. And that violates law. I may agree with what they're saying, but this violates law.
Or disagree. It doesn't matter, right?
And this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What I hear you guys saying is whether you're a website that's violating the terms of the agreement, or a hacker or hacker group that's taking it upon themselves to censor, for lack of a better term, there's guilt on both sides.
Sure. Well, and I would argue that the censor is maybe a bad word in that if it is not a censorship, if we ask you to say, hey, if you want to talk about your stuff here, great. We respect all of these things except these things that are illegal. In these various countries. And if you publish these things that are illegal in these various countries, you're out. That's not censorship. That's legal. That's not censorship. You could call it censorship, but it's not. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. No, that's a good distinction.
And I think that's a very, very good distinction between your comments, Jeff, is that censorship is not necessarily censorship. It's that, hey, if you want to come on my property and open in the state of Rhode Island, we have no open carry law. If you want to come on my property and I permit you to open carry on my property, firearm, you can do so. I can open carry on my own property, but as soon as I step off my property, I am no longer legally entitled to open carry.
Yeah, and look, everything you're saying comes back to the comment I make. Law abiding is civically responsible.
Yes.
It really is that simple in the end. And unfortunately, there are too many people that are, civically irresponsible.
Yep.
And that's just a fact.
Yep. And, laws were made for a reason, and sometimes you may not agree with them, but take your consequences.
Next story or wrap up.
What do we got left, Paul?
What else is out there?
I got one more story. I know that I feel like I have one more story.
I have one more short, if you don't mind, because we talked about it at the beginning. Make it quick.
It's a really tough one, guys. You're putting me on the spot here.
Let me do mine first.
Okay.
USB security. We talked about that. USB connection is less secure than is thought. And the big one is that folks are figuring out that Universal Serial Bus, USB, is a bus, and that you can observe other traffic on said bus. And, you can sniff all that shit on the bus, and it includes information leakage, just like eating a bunch of Lestra, and that we can get a lot more out of USB bus than we actually thought we could. And PCI is often tied to USB.
Is that the stuff that causes anal leakage
and fecal urgency? Yes.
I will point out for my Adelaide hometown crew, this is from the University of Adelaide. That was where I grew up, so big shout out to the Adelaide computer science folks. Good job.
Yep. So effectively what they're saying is the take-home message is that people shouldn't connect anything to USB unless they can fully trust it. Meaning something that you can connect to USB can sniff anything that goes over USB anywhere on the device. Anywhere. It's a bus. It means you think about when you were on a bus as a kid going to school, that everything on that bus was available to anyone. You just had to listen in the right places.
I'm gonna choose this next story. organizations are willing to try out longer password.
I knew you'd go with passwords.
I love it.
Because I am like disheartened. So I think that in the 20 years that we've been trying to push the secure computing initiative to end users, right? The password has been pretty much the crux, one of the crux of the issues.
Yep. Because we had nothing better.
But what I find troubling is that, well, okay, so let me talk about the positive side first. What I find positive is that this study finds that overwhelmingly that users are willing to implement a passphrase versus a password.
Yep.
And I think that
correct horse battery staple.
But like, let's look at the past 10 or 15 years we've been doing security, and we can say, yeah, you know what? I think users are starting to come around to the fact that it's not an 8-character, you must have uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and special characters kind of password, like move to a passphrase. Now, where I really find interesting in this kind of research is multi-factor authentication. And the quote here really it blows me away.
Really grinds your gears.
Multi-factor authentication, and I quote, is very effective in preventing specific account takeover attacks, but more general phishing attacks like ransomware campaigns, of course, are not mitigated by multi-factor authentication. Sure. But my whole thing is like, so my whole thing is, hold on, wait. Like ransomware attacks, how does a longer, essentially longer password prevent against ransomware attacks versus multi-factor? Like,
it doesn't.
The two are mutually exclusive. A longer password doesn't protect you any better than multi-factor, or it doesn't protect you any better than having a longer password in multi-factor authentication, whether we're talking about domain or authentication to a service.
No amount of two-factor authentication will prevent you from being stupid. And I will attest to this. That recent VLC thing that came out with it will grab all of your stuff from all of your browser cache, and if you install this version of VLC via an update, it will do all these things. And sure enough, I installed the bad version of the VLC mirror, and it needed authenticated rights to install, and I gave it to it, and sure enough, it gave it rights to it and read all these things, which was a brand new system, so it had none of these things.
Most of the ransomware out there, like, let's face facts.
Two-factor authentication would have fixed that.
No.
It would have asked me for my 2FA.
But you're already freaking authenticated once you execute the payload that installs the ransomware.
Or if it's asking you to authenticate, you're likely going to authenticate because
I think that's a poor example in the article. I agree that it's used badly, bad context, whatever you want to call it, just doesn't work. So,
we all
just
go ahead,
digress and point out a pet peeve real quick.
Yes, sir.
So what drives a lot of the industry is PCI. Can't go an episode without bringing up PCI. The requirement for years for PCI in terms of password complexity was often met and satisfied by my PCI customers by implementing the Microsoft password complexity rules,
which could only implement 3 out of 4.
Do not meet the PCI requirements, and still to this day do not.
Yep. Because you can only do 3 out of 4, you can't do 4 out of 4.
The dude that came up with, you must have an 8-character password that is uppercase, lowercase, special characters.
We talked about this guy a couple weeks ago.
Yes. He came out and said, I
fucked up.
I fucked up. Like, that's wrong.
Yep. The site, so because of this VLC thing, I got nailed by. I went, and even though I didn't need to, I went and changed everything. And as part of the things that I found out, that many sites, when I put my 42-character password, all lowercase, all plain text, no special characters, no numbers, there were a number of places where I attempted to use that password that said, you don't have a number or a special character. fuck. Dude, my password is 42 characters long.
It's
I rest my case.
It's what's wrong with the world today in terms of authentication. I covered a story on Hacktivism News this week that called out a number of major online providers like Uber and others that basically, it was self-serving to the organization that provided authentication and access, right? But they found that, like, some of the top major providers, like, I want to say it was Uber, and goes to Hacktivism News, but like the major providers that you would like authenticate to today, like, still required that you have a number, like you're saying, Larry.
I mean, Mike, I'm happy
your maximum password length can only be 10 characters, and it has to contain an uppercase, a lowercase, a number, and a special character.
And you know what? And you know what?
Hold on, wait. My password
I have a login to this day, Paul, that I set on I travel a lot, so I won't say what kind of company it is, but my login is a 4-digit PIN, and it has been for probably 15 years.
And a 4-digit PIN is fine as like a second factor. We go back to GM.
That's not a second factor. That's
one
my
factor.
login.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is we go back to GM. We talk about car hacking. Bring this full circle before we round out. You have to have a login, username, and password to log in order to like do anything in the app. Like when I had to unlock my car at the beach yesterday, had to put my 4-digit PIN in.
Good.
Nah, that's okay. That's okay.
But after multiple steps, it wasn't the first. It wasn't the
first step.
Yep.
I just don't.
This is to a something that is involved with travel, where I log in and make reservations for something
like OpenTable or Uber or Lyft.
Is my account number, and my password is a 4-digit PIN. I've never had to change it, and 4-digit PIN was acceptable. It's been that way for 15 years.
I am so using Jeff's travel rewards to go book some hotel rooms.
It's just bad. Anyway,
let's put it this way. I broke out one of the vintage shirts today. Do it.
I just can't get over authentication. I really can't. Michael Santocangelo, when he came on the show, he just started Security Weekly with us.
Santa?
He kept pointing out a lot
when is he going to come back on this show? Soon.
Maybe when we figure it out.
No,
or started to figure it out.
Soon.
Because we need to figure. Why? Like, you need my financial organization. Oh, you need to have an 8-character password. It needs to have uppercase, lowercase, and a special character. Really? I've got a 24-character password. That would be, or passphrase rather.
Yep.
That would be awesome for you. Yeah, they're like, no, we can't accept that. I'm like, hold on. You mean to tell me the difference between 8 and 24 is like something like storage-wise or hash-wise?
Yeah.
Like, you can't afford in your data, but like you're a multi-billion-dollar company. You can't afford to store my password.
Oh, they can, but the rules say.
The rules say.
Yeah, because the rules. And that guy admitted he fucked up.
That's a good note to end on.
Yep.
Hey, I've got a really stupid question. In the early days, Unix passwords, you can make them as long as you want, but they only looked at the first 8 characters. Has that ever been changed in Linux?
In Linux, it has.
Yes.
In Windows, Unix? It has, except if you're still accepting LM hashes.
Yeah. Oh.
Which.
If
Jeff, that's like a whole segment in and of itself.
Yeah, if you're doing that, you should shoot your management in the face right now. No, not really. Just with a Nerf gun, because that would,
Refer to my presentation, Jeff, how to defend against penetration testers and win. I go through that, like why you wouldn't do those in a Windows environment.
Yep.
In a Linux environment, I think we're pretty good. Modern Linux, we're pretty good, right?
Yep.
Joff, do you agree there?
Yeah, I do agree. Modern Linux pretty good, especially not only in the length issue, but in the different ciphers that are implemented on the back end as well. Really pretty
Although
good.
in Linux, if you're root, you can pretty much set whatever password you want.
Well, of course you can. I mean, there's no operating system that's going to prevent you from being an idiot. I mean,
and nobody ever logs in as root and does their day-to-day activities.
With Telnet.
Oh God! Oh God! At least we're moving past that.
Oh God!
For the most
There's
part,
just so many analogies.
No, there isn't.
Time to wrap up.
Dude, I'm designing CTF. No, there's so many.
Like next week we'll. You know what? Listen to Paul's Security Weekly and all of the other shows on the Security Weekly network to talk about issues such as this, because we've just flat out run out of time. So thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Larry, take us out.
Over and Bukkake.
Oh, yeah.
ASL for Bukkake. Come on now.